Hello everyone, how are you? How are you doing? We're gonna start today with the second grammar lesson. We're gonna talk about the types of clauses. When we start writing essay, writing paragraphs, whatever we're writing, even if we're using WhatsApp for writing, usually we start writing words, and then we move upward. We move to phrases, incomplete sentences containing subject or predicate, and then we move to another type. We call it clause. Now we're going to learn about the different types of clauses. We're going to learn what the clause is. Let's start. What's the clause? Okay, so when we say clause, we're talking about a group of words. We're not talking about individual words. We're talking about group of words. We're talking about subject and predicate at the same time. So I can't name group of words clause unless they have a subject and a predicate in the same part. So it's a must, it's necessary, it's indispensable for a clause to contain a subject and a predicate, or subject and a verb. Third point, we have two different types. So this clause might be complete or incomplete, but still we call it a clause. Let's go to the different types. First, we're talking about an independent clause. The independent clause is a clause that can stand alone in a sentence. So, John passed the ball. Here we're talking about John, which is the subject, who passed the ball, which is the predicate or verb. Do you think that it's reflecting a complete thought? John passed the ball. In my head, I have a complete idea. It is reflecting a complete thought, a complete idea. I don't need any extra information to clarify the idea. This is clear enough. So this sentence, as it is, or this clause, as it is independent and it can stand alone in a sentence. Let's go to the different type, to the second type. We call it dependent clause. The dependent clause is a clause that cannot stand alone in a sentence. It needs support. It needs another part to clarify it. So if I say because I was hungry, is it clear? No. If you pay attention, is it clear? No. Why isn't it clear? Because it cannot stand alone. It's not reflecting a complete thought. It needs something to complete it. That's what we call dependent clause. We can call it subordinating clause if it starts with a subordinate conjunction like because, after, before. Let's continue. So it's not a complete thought. Let's take an example about it. Because it was not his turn. Is it a complete idea? Does it reflect a complete thought? No, because I need something to complete it. Let's take a look at the following. Because it was not his turn, John passed the ball. So here I have a dependent clause which is not clear, which is not complete, and I have an independent clause. Together they form a complete sentence. Okay, so here I'm not gonna read all of the examples. You can pause the video and read them on your own. I'm just gonna take one example from each of the following. I know the man. I know the man, independent, clear, subject and the verb. It reflects a complete idea. But I want to complete it. I decided to add a dependent clause. Who stole the watch? This is not a question. This is a clause. This is an adjective clause. So I know the man who stole the watch. Who in this part of the sentence is the subject? It's replacing the man. Stole is the verb. So who stole the man? It contains the subject and the verb. It gives extra information to the whole sentence. It cannot stand alone in the sentence, so we call it a dependent clause. And these are the other examples. This is an independent clause. He is a wise man. Can you do it? Do it, please. So guys, independent, subject and the verb in the same clause. It can stand alone in a sentence. It reflects a complete idea and a complete thought. When we talk about independent clause, we're talking about a complete sentence. When we talk about dependent clause, we're talking about incomplete part of the sentence. It's incomplete. We have three different types of dependent clauses. The first type is the noun clause. First, the noun clause contains the subject and the verb like any other type of dependent clause or any other type of clause, because we said before that the clause contains a subject and the verb as a must. It begins with one of the following words like how, that, what, when. We have more. That's why I put 3 points here. And it functions as a noun. And we all know that the noun can be a subject, an object, or object of preposition. How he behaved was not accepted. How he behaved is a noun clause. Dependent clause because it cannot stand alone. Noun clause because it takes the place of a noun in the sentence. What do we mean by it replaces the noun? If I cross how he behaved and I put it was not acceptable. It in the following sentence is called a noun. Sorry, it's not a noun. It's taking the place of a subject in this sentence. It was not acceptable. So here it is replacing the subject in the following sentence. So subject is a noun, so this is a noun dependent clause. Why is it dependent? Because I can't say how he behaved. It's incomplete. So this is a noun clause, dependent clause, replacing the subject. She didn't know where she was. What's the thing that she didn't know? What didn't she know where she was? If I say she didn't know this in the following sentence is replacing the object. It answers the question, what? She didn't know where she was. So where she was is a noun clause because it's taking the place of an object. It is a dependent clause, so we call it a noun clause. More examples. She is tired of what we are doing. We talked before in the phrases lesson about prepositions, and we said that after the preposition we have something called object of preposition. The object of preposition is a noun. So if instead of putting she's tired of him or she's tired of her, I put what you are doing. I have a subject and I have a predicate. So this is a clause. It's a dependent clause and it's taking the place of an object of preposition. So we call it a noun clause. So she is tired of what you're doing. What you are doing is a noun clause, dependent clause, replacing the object of preposition. Choose a gift for whomever you want. This is also a dependent clause. It's replacing the noun and it's replacing the object of preposition because it's coming after the preposition for. So these are 4 different examples for noun clause replacing the subject, replacing the object, and replacing the object of preposition. And if you read them separately, you will notice that they are all dependent because they can't stand alone in a sentence. Let's go. When I say an adjective clause, I'm talking about group of words. Adjective clause should contain a subject and a verb. It's a must. The adjective clause might begin with a relative clause like who, whom, whose, that, or which, or a relative adverb like where or when, or more examples. And it should function as an adjective. When I say it functions as an adjective, I mean that it describes the noun. Let's take a look at the following nouns. The winners, whose names are posted on the bulletin board, will receive round-trip airfare to Mexico City. So here, all of the bolded clause is describing the winners. It's describing a noun. So it's an adjective clause, and it's also a dependent clause. Money that is well spent, that is well spent, that here is the noun, is well spent is the predicate. So that is well spent is describing money. What do we call it? An adjective clause because it's describing a noun. Exercise, which many people dislike, is good for you. So the following clause is describing exercise or exercising. It's describing a noun, so we call it an adjective clause. Daniel, who was late again today. Broccoli, which most people often leave uneaten, is very nutritious. So guys, if you notice here, some of the adjective clauses are separated by 2 commas, like broccoli, like this adjective clause and this adjective clause, while the rest are not separated by 2 commas. Why? I take a look at the adjective clause. If it's describing something which is already known for everyone or which is already clear from the sentence, so I don't need the adjective clause, so I can separate them with 2 commas. Here, Daniel I mean, if we're reading the story or the narrative or whatever you're reading, you know Daniel. Daniel is a proper noun. So I don't need to add information. Any information mentioned here in the adjective clause is not necessary. It's what we call extra information. So I can separate them by 2 commas. Same for broccoli. So this is what we call non-defining adjective clause. I don't need the following adjective clause, so I put 2 commas to give the choice for the reader to take them off. While here, it is essential, it is important, so I can't separate the following I can't separate the adjective clause with 2 commas. So if you read the noun we're describing, if the noun is familiar, is something which is well known, I need 2 commas to separate the adjective clause. If it's not known, I can't, because I need the adjective clause to clarify my idea. Let's go to the last one. The last one is about the adjective clause. Again, it contains a subject and a verb. It begins with a relative clause like when, where, why, how much, under what condition. And it functions as an adverb, and as we all know, the adverb modifies the verb, the adverb, or an adjective. Here, it answers, usually the adjective clause answers questions like where, when, why, under what condition, for what reason. So let's take a look. Since it's just me, I'll eat in tonight. Here we're mentioning the reason. So this is an adverb clause describing the reason. My dog, although she is shy, loves people. So here, this is an adverb clause describing an adjective. Sorry, this is an adverb, although this is giving the condition. Although she is shy, so regardless of her condition of being shy, loves people. I keep a suitcase packed in case I find a great flight to Ireland. So here we're talking about condition also. And that's it. Again, guys, dependent clause is a clause that cannot stand alone. It needs something to complete it. It should contain a subject and a verb, but still it doesn't reflect a complete thought. I have 3 different types: the noun clause replacing a noun, subject, object, and object of preposition. Adjective clause describing the noun, adverb clause describing the verb, the adverb and the adjective. And that's it. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.